All right, everybody say it with me. We've heard it in supermarkets. We heard it at the NFL draft. We've heard it in hockey games. All right, say the chant. Jared Goff, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. All right, we've heard it. And I am going to come at you with what I have been thinking about. And I'm going to be real with you. I was too scared to come on here and talk about it. But now Yahoo Sports did an article that actually kind of agrees with what I've been thinking. So it gave me the courage to come out and say it. There is a chance. Don't you turn this video off yet. Don't turn it off when I say this. There is a shot, and there is a decent shot, that Jared Goff is the 2024 2025, whatever season you want to call it, MVP. NFL MVP. And I'm going to give you a bunch of reasons why, but just hang in with me. All right. So this is the article. It was by Frank Schwab. All right. No, not Schwab Investments. All right. But just a senior writer at Yahoo. And he said, based on a simple look at recent history, Goff may have a decent shot. He made a great argument. All right. There's a formula for MVP, he said. The days of Emmitt Smith or LT winning the award are long, long gone, but it's not just narrowing it down to quarterbacks or even quarterbacks from playoff teams. You need to figure out the quarterback whose team will have one of the top 2 records in their conference. If someone came from the future and told you which teams had a top 4 records in the regular season, you could narrow the MVP race down with remarkable accuracy. Listen to this. In the last 15 years, there have been 15 NFL MVPs. It's pretty basic. 12 of those 15 MVPs were quarterbacks from a number 1 seed in their conference. That narrows it down to a 2-man race almost. The other 2 quarterbacks were from the number 2 seed in their conference. One was Aaron Rodgers in 2015, and one was Matt Ryan in 2016. So they played so unbelievable that even though another team got hotter and won more games, they still would get it. And the 15th person is Adrian Peterson. All right? Adrian Peterson. And that was what, like 15 years ago? He's the last running back to win an MVP. Those days are over. So since 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. We have had the last 7 MVPs, by my math, have all been quarterbacks from the number 1 seed in the conference. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what are the chances of the Lions being number 1 in the NFC? And if you think they have a good shot at number 1, and by the way, if they get number 1, it's because Jared Goff went nuts. It's that simple. It's because he went nuts. Last year, this is a guy who threw for 4,600 yards, 4,575. He had 30 touchdowns. He had a great touchdown to interception ratio, and he played on a 12-5 team. The schedule is much, much more difficult this year. All right, so if he can get the number 1 seed, if he can lead the Detroit Lions to the number 1 seed, that will turn heads. And people won't be saying about him what they're saying about Brock Purdy. When Brock Purdy throws for 5,400 yards and 30 touchdowns, they say Brock Purdy's a system quarterback. By the way, he threw for 4,280 yards and 29 touchdowns. They all said, 31 touchdowns. They all said he was a system quarterback. Jared Goff is a guy who had a career resurgent year. That's the difference between what Goff is going to be doing on this and guys like Brock Purdy. All right. There's a willingness to let him throw the ball. Do you realize that last year, Jared Goff had more attempts than everybody not named? I believe it's just Sam Howell. And part of that's because he was healthy. He was so darn healthy, and everybody else spent a little time on the shelf. He had 605 attempts last year. And I already told you what he turned that into. But then you look at that, and you look at the roster, and we'll go back into more stats soon. You've got a running back in Jahmyr Gibbs that's a threat out of the backfield. And he will have that more down. That was one of the big things that Scotty Montgomery, the running backs coach, was talking about. He was talking about how Gibbs this year, the big focus is going to be getting him to be more Christian McCaffrey-like. In other words, We want to be able to use him in the passing game just as effectively as in the run game. And can he do all those things? If that's there, Jared Goff, those checkdowns, he is going to get a ton of free yards by getting it to Gibbs. When you look at the wide receivers, you look at St. Brown, you look at Williams, you look at Raymond. The difference between the wide receivers this year and last year, even though they're very similar people, is that last year you had St. Brown and you had Laporta and you had Josh Reynolds getting all the targets. When you replace Reynolds with Williams and a heavier dose of Khalif Raymond, now all of a sudden, at least two of your biggest 4 targets are huge play threats. All right? St. Brown's going to always get his. But now you have the speed of Raymond. You have the speed of Williams. And if he can get a few more of those just big chunk plays, all of a sudden he's a quarterback that goes from 4,600 yards and 30 touchdowns. And it is not out of the realm of possibility to easily go to over 5,000 yards, over 35 touchdowns while keeping himself efficient. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And we don't have those crappy outdoor late games like we have in the past. We just simply don't have as many of them this year. So all these things are starting to stack up. And then when you look at last year, people are going to start recognizing that this isn't a fluke and that he's just a good quarterback, which will earn him more respect. All right? In passing yards, he was number 2. In touchdowns, all right, he was number 4. Like, he is a good player. He is a good player. Those are the biggest 2 stats. And then of all the people with touchdowns, he didn't throw a ton of interceptions. He threw more in the second half of the year, and I understand that. But he's not Josh Allen out here throwing 29 to 18. All right? Like Brett Favre numbers for Josh Allen. Patrick Mahomes even 27 to 14. All right? People that are ahead of him in this, he's number 15 right now. I think he's 15 to 1 odds. People that have better odds than him are Justin Herbert, are Matthew Stafford. Those are great quarterbacks, but they're not going to be a top 2 team in their in the NFC or in the AFC. At least very unlikely. I could see a weird world in where the Rams do it. All right, I could see it. He's tied with guys like Anthony Richardson and Kirk Cousins. I'm just telling you, he's on a better team. And so when you are on a team that has a chance to do it, and by the way, they have the 4th best odds of winning the Super Bowl. So they're considered the 4th best team in the NFL. And the only team in the NFC ahead of them, you guessed it, the San Francisco 49ers. So do I think there's a world where Jared Goff can win MVP? I do. Did I just waste 8 minutes of your time? Maybe, but let's get excited about the $212 million man that is our quarterback, and let's start realizing how good he is. I know he can't run. Neither could Peyton Manning. I know he can't run. Neither could Tom Brady. Those guys seem to be able to win MVPs without it. I understand the league is still changing, but it's not that much different than it was when they were winning MVPs. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.